Next on the news. Cries of relief from the family of a woman on death row who was granted a stay of execution. We'll tell you what's next in her case. Plus,
there are a range of views on Title 42. There are some, you noted, who are very vocal about how they would like to see it extended.
The debate over whether to drop Title 42 at the border now being heard at the Supreme Court. And the Archbishop of New York announcing an overseas trip to visit with Ukrainian refugees. Also, a Catholic institution of higher learning undergoing a bit of a name change for a very good reason. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now.
Stay of execution granted. Yes, yes, yes. God.
The family of the only Hispanic woman on death row learning that she was granted a stay of execution. Melissa Lucio was set to be put to death on Wednesday for the murder of her toddler. But now a court has put a stop to it, pausing the execution while new evidence that could result in a new trial is reviewed. It's a huge relief for many Catholic leaders and her family. Tears of joy from Melissa Lucio's mother and sisters as they hear the news that their loved one's life will be spared for now.
We're waiting for Melissa to come home.
With just 2 days before her scheduled execution, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals issued a stay that might give Lucio a chance to prove that she did not kill her 2-year-old daughter Mariah Alvarez in 2007. The 52-year-old got emotional when hearing she has a chance to live.
Oh my God! That is wonderful!
Catholic leaders are applauding the stay. Bishop Daniel Flores of Brownsville, Texas, said in a statement that creating a less violent, more peaceful world requires that we continue to foster a sense of justice that does not include the taking of more lives. Let us pray and work for an end to the death penalty.
It's a really tough time for all of us right now.
Lucio's son, Bobby Alvarez, says they were in the middle of moving that day. His mother was packing in their second-floor unit when Mariah, who was unsteady on her feet due to a mild physical disability, fell down the stairs.
She fell all the way down. From the first step up there all the way down here.
She didn't show signs of severe injury, but became lethargic and 2 days later, unresponsive.
We immediately called the ambulance, and from there, got taken away. It was just a horrible night.
Court documents show Texas Rangers interrogated Lucio for hours about extensive bruising and suspected child abuse. This clip of the interview was provided by Lucio's lawyers.
How are you not cold-blooded? How are you going to change our minds and prove to us that you're not a cold-blooded kid?
I don't know how to change the minds.
Well, you can start with telling us the truth.
It wasn't going to stop until she told the interrogators what they wanted to hear.
Lucio's lawyers say after hours of questioning, Lucio was pressured into agreeing that she was responsible for her daughter's injuries, but never said she killed her child. Her defense team says new evidence includes testimony the jury never heard from witnesses saying Lucio did not abuse her child. 5 jurors have said with new evidence they feel Lucio should have a new trial.
Mariah's death was a tragedy, not a murder. And the reason that we're seeing the jurors come forward, the reason that we're seeing such an outpouring of bipartisan support is because people recognize that Melissa Lucio is innocent.
The next step is for the trial court to review the evidence to decide if a new trial is warranted. That process could take months, and Lucio will remain in prison while it happens. The stay on Lucio's execution is just one of a few that have been recently halted by the courts. Richard Moore would have been executed this Friday by firing squad after he was found guilty in the 1999 murder and robbery of a South Carolina store clerk. The state's Supreme Court issued the stay last Wednesday after Moore's attorneys requested it due to pending litigation that challenges the constitutionality of the state's execution methods. Also last week, the execution of another South Carolina man was also stopped. Brad Keith Sigmund was scheduled to die on May 13th after being convicted of 2 counts of murder and first-degree burglary.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
A battle at the highest court in the land. Will the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy stay or go? The answer to that question for now is that the policy will stay. A federal judge temporarily blocking the Biden administration from ending the restriction next month. John Lawrence reports on the move and the White House's response.
The Biden White House is temporarily blocked from ending Title 42 by a federal judge in Louisiana.
If President Biden lifts Title 42, what we see today will be much worse. A country without a secure border is not a country.
Title 42 allows U.S. border officials to turn migrants away due to public health concerns, namely the COVID-19 pandemic.
This is not an immigration policy. This Title 42 is a health authority that's determined by the CDC, and we need to have a conversation about immigration reform. That's vital. Maybe this is a reminder of that.
Critics of removing the order say it is likely to cause a greater surge of migrants at an already stressed border.
Title 42 is a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. It's not actual border security. It's important, but it represents the ability to turn people away and actually secure the border.
President Joe Biden wants to end the policy, which was invoked during the Trump administration, on May 23rd, and a White House source says the federal judge's block may not disrupt those plans.
I would note that there are a range of views on Title 42. There are some, you noted, who are very vocal about how they would like to see it extended. There are some who are very vocal about how they would not like to see that happen. So that's an important discussion that will be happening over the coming days and weeks.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Bishop Mark Seitz of El Paso, Texas, thanked God when the Biden administration announced they would terminate Title 42. The migration chair of the U.S. Bishops' Conference said this about the ending of the policy. I think the way people need to understand what to expect is that there is a great deal of pent-up need. It's like we've pinched the hose and the pressure has built up, so people who were living under tremendous difficult circumstances have been waiting for some opportunity to come to the United States, and others have arrived in northern Mexico at the border and been stuck there. So really, our policies, and particularly Title 42, have created a situation in which that pressure is likely to be released all at once. In Kentucky, a federal judge temporarily blocked a law that restricted abortions. The bill set up a certification and monitoring system in the state that records all abortions and all doctors who perform the procedure. Non-compliance would have resulted in fines, felony penalties, and loss of licenses for physicians and facilities. Two abortion clinics that challenged the law claimed they couldn't comply with it because the state didn't set up clear guidelines. The judge who blocked the law said her order would not prevent the state from making the necessary regulations. The Archbishop of New York, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, will be visiting Ukrainians in Poland and Slovakia this week. The Cardinal will meet with refugees who have fled their homeland amid the attacks by Russia. His Eminence also plans to thank the priests and nuns who have helped those fleeing Ukraine. Cardinal Dolan is the chair of the Catholic Near East Welfare Association. Meanwhile, American diplomats have returned to Ukraine for the first time since the Russian invasion started, and the U.S. and allied nations are promising more support for the war-torn nation as the conflict in the south and eastern regions continues to escalate. Gloria Pazmino has the latest.
Time is running out in Ukraine.
Good morning, sir.
The United States sought to rally allies Tuesday, promising more support for the war-torn region as part of its ongoing effort to deter Russia's offensive.
The briefings today laid out clearly why the coming weeks will be so crucial for Ukraine. So we've got to move at the speed of war.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke at a meeting of defense officials in Germany.
Mr. Putin needs to make a decision to end this conflict. He's the person that started it. It was unjustified.
But Russia is showing no signs of backing down. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres met with Russian President Vladimir Putin Tuesday and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
I know that we have today facing a complex situation in Ukraine.
According to the UN, Putin agreed in principle to evacuation of citizens at a steel plant in Mariupol. While U.S. diplomats returned to Ukraine Tuesday for the first time since Russia's invasion, the Pentagon is warning security in Europe remains at stake.
I think the policy of all of our governments together is a free and independent Ukraine.
As talks continue, Russian forces are stepping up their offensive in the south and east of the country. A third mass grave has reportedly been found near Mariupol. According to the city's mayor, Russian soldiers forced residents to take part in mass burials in exchange for food. Gloria Pazmino, Current News.
Pope Francis making a plea to the Sri Lankan government to further investigate the deadly 2019 Easter bombings.
Per amore alla giustizia, per amore al vostro popolo, che si chiarisca definitivamente chi sono stati i responsabili di questi eventi.
The Pope making the statement during a visit to the Vatican by Sri Lankan religious leaders and victims' families. 25 men suspected of being linked to ISIS are facing trial for allegedly plotting the attacks on churches, but victims and their families are still calling for more accountability from the government, which they say knew about the attacks well in advance but did not do anything to stop them.
There are signs that this goes beyond the groups of Islamic radicals. There are signs that there was a government conspiracy behind this.
More than 260 people were killed and at least 500 people injured in those bombings. There's a lot more news headed your way. Nearly 3 million people have fled Ukraine since the start of the war, but not everyone was greeted with open arms. How one nonprofit is looking to change that. And the search is on. The NYPD looking for the man who shot and killed a 24-year-old at a Queens subway station. Plus, after weeks of outrage, police in Michigan have named the officer involved in the shooting of Patrick Lyoya. As we mentioned earlier, His Eminence Cardinal Timothy Dolan will be visiting one of the top places for Ukrainian refugees fleeing the war, Poland. The trip will highlight the church's numerous initiatives there in providing refugees food and shelter regardless of color or creed. We take a look at one Catholic-run shelter that is helping those in the peripheries of the Ukrainian refugee crisis. Erica Hill reports.
After fleeing the war in Ukraine, a chance to just be a kid.
They are drawing what they feel.
She says here she's grateful.
Poland has welcomed nearly 3 million people since the war started, yet not everyone is greeted with open arms.
It's clear that we are more open for, those Slavic people, ethnic groups.
While Ukrainians arriving in Poland can stay for 18 months, work legally, and have access to health care and social services, non-Ukrainians can't. These 3 women knew they could help.
They have only 2 weeks to think about their next steps, and I can't imagine actually how to do it when you are a war refugee.
Overnight, they started a shelter for non-Ukrainian refugees run by KIK, a Catholic NGO in Poland. With space for 70 guests, they're turning people away daily.
And from the beginning, it's full.
Joel and Daniel, students from Nigeria, were studying management in Kyiv when the war broke out and were reluctant to leave.
It was fun for me, and I would rather love to go back to Ukraine. It was like that. It's a very good country.
They finally left 2 weeks ago and are now trying to figure out what's next.
We also try to support our guests in organizing their next steps. So sometimes it's a trip to other countries, but also we try to find flats or apartments, places to stay.
Volunteers, at least a dozen a day, keep the shelter running and help connect refugees to essential services. Among them, 27-year-old HALTED, an IT professional who fled Afghanistan 7 months ago.
I do anything that I can do. It's very good for me because I don't have any other job, and it's a better idea to spend time here.
This effort relies on donations, from clothing and toiletries to food and flowers. Even the space, which has now welcomed more than 500 people from 36 countries, is donated, a generous offer that runs out at the end of May.
That was Erica Hill reporting. The shelter's manager believes they will still be welcoming new refugees until the end of next year. To the latest numbers of Ukraine's growing humanitarian crisis, 5.2 million have officially fled the country. As we mentioned, Poland still holds the highest number of refugees at almost 3 million. That's followed by Romania at almost 800,000 and Russia at more than 600,000. A New Jersey software developer is accused of being a sleeper agent for Hezbollah. Prosecutors say Alexei Saab of Morristown was actually a highly trained terrorist scoping out U.S. landmarks for attacks between 2000 and 2005. They say the 45-year-old used a double identity while he worked for Hezbollah, ready to attack Americans at popular locations if Iran was attacked by the U.S. A 24-year-old man was shot and killed in a subway station in Queens. It happened around 4:30 Monday during the evening rush at the Jamaica Center Transit Hub. Police say it started in front of a ticket booth.
We know that there was a verbal altercation, which led to a physical altercation, which then led to the violent shots being fired.
Detectives say the victim was taken to the hospital where he later died. A gun was recovered, and police say they're looking through surveillance video as they hunt for the suspect. The number of reported attacks against Jewish people and their communities hit a record high in 2021. According to the Anti-Defamation League's annual audit, more than 2,700 anti-Semitic incidents were reported last year. That's a 34% increase over the year before. But this isn't new. The organization has been tracking such incidents since 1979 and says reports of anti-Semitism has been on the rise for years in America. After 3 weeks of outrage, both online and on the streets of Grand Rapids, police in Michigan have finally released the name of the officer involved in the shooting of 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya. But some are saying that identification took far too long, and there are still more questions that need to be answered. Chris Yu reports.
They wanted the videos. They wanted the officer's name.
You hold the name of a man that killed this man.
The public has been calling for more transparency in the shooting of Patrick Lyoya. Today, the Grand Rapids police chief formally identified the officer who killed Lyoya as Christopher Scher, who joined the department in 2015.
It's a couple weeks too late because social media has already released the name of Christopher Scher, but I'm very glad that Chief Winstrom has responded to not only the public, but national leadership across the United States of America.
But Kent County Commissioner Robert Womack says more questions still need to be answered.
We need to know if he's been interviewed yet, because we knew after 10 days he had still not been interviewed. So just policies that allow an officer-involved shooting to go 72 hours before the officer can be interviewed, and even extend up to 10 days. Those are policies that definitely need to be changed.
Scher pulled Lyoya over on April 4th for an alleged license plate violation. Dash and body cam videos show Scher asking Lyoya for ID. Stop. After a brief struggle, Lyoya ran away on foot. Scher then tackled Lyoya to the ground, where another struggle ensued before Scher shot and killed Lyoya.
I was shocked to see a police officer climb on top of the back of a man and consider him a threat, to the point that he took a gun out and shot this young 26-year-old in the back of his head.
That was Chris Yu reporting. Officer Christopher Scher has not been charged yet. Vice President Kamala Harris has tested positive for COVID-19. The White House says Harris got the positive results from both a rapid and a PCR test. The vice president's office says she's not experiencing any symptoms, but she will isolate and work from home. Harris has not been with President Biden since the Easter egg roll event at the White House on April 18th. In Beijing, government officials have rolled out mass COVID testing for nearly 20 million residents throughout most of the city. People there could be seen panic buying, leaving many grocery stores and shops with empty shelves in fears of a Shanghai-style lockdown. But already restrictions have been placed on dozens of residential compounds in the city, banning residents from leaving their homes or community grounds. Well, this is the final week to join in on the tablet's Great COVID Relief Fundraiser. Students who sell the most subscriptions to the tablet will get money back for not only themselves, but also for their schools. And that's not all. Every new reader you earn for the Brooklyn paper will get you that much closer to this year's grand prize of $3,000. But you better hurry up. Students only have until April 29th to sell subscriptions. That is this coming Friday. If you don't know a student selling subscriptions, don't worry, you can still participate. Just go to thetablet.org/COVID Relief Fundraiser. There you can select the parish school of your choice. You can also extend your subscription if you're already a big fan of the tablet. Still to come on Currents News, so long St. Joseph's College, St. Joseph's University, New York is in the house. How over 100 years of history has led the institution to this moment. Plus, an adorable achievement for a species teetering on the brink of extinction, the discovery that's got conservationists jumping for joy. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A Catholic institution of higher learning is moving up a grade. St. Joseph's College is now St. Joseph's University, New York, thanks to a new state designation. The university's president, Donald Baumgarten, says the new designation is part of the mission of the school's founders, the Sisters of St. Joseph.
The university status really is a culmination of the dream of the Sisters of St. Joseph to create an institution that would really be impactful. And so the mission of the school, I think, is exactly the same as it was in 1916, and that is to bring high quality education to people who otherwise might not get it.
For those wondering about the difference, a college is often a smaller institution that emphasizes undergraduate education, while universities are typically larger institutions that have both undergrad and graduate programs. The change will not impact the curriculum or the tuition at the school. So how does a college even become a university? Well, St. Joseph's had to submit a charter amendment to the New York State Department of Education and the Board of Regents. The school has to reach these requirements. 1, offer a range of registered undergrad and graduate curriculums in the liberal arts and sciences. 2, allow students to get degrees in 2 or more professional fields. And 3, have doctoral programs in at least 3 academic fields. Every year, April 25th marks World Penguin Day, and NASA is celebrating with a sneak peek into a galaxy far, far away. Just take a look at this image captured by NASA's Hubble telescope. It's a view of 2 galaxies roughly 23 million light years away, and they just happen to bear an uncanny resemblance to a penguin guarding an egg. Scientists say these 2 galaxies will eventually merge into one, but until then, this penguin has boldly gone where no penguin has gone before. Here on Earth, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is celebrating what could be a beautiful future for an endangered species. Just take a look at this new litter of red wolf pups found in North Carolina. Wild-born litters of this breed haven't been seen since 2018, and officials say the discovery is renewing hope for survival of the species. It has been the mission of the recovery program since the red wolf was listed as endangered back in 1973. Too cute. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.